Okay, changing gears a little bit. Your projects, or at least your current projects right now, are focused on architectural visualization, creating rooms, workspaces, studios, whatever you so choose to create, but doing it in a realistic and true-to-life look and scale. So I want to take a minute to talk about getting things set in the scale, and then also a little bit as far as your workflow moving forward. So generally speaking, I want you to model everything at scale, and model all of your key components in separate scenes, and then at the end we'll bring all of those together. We'll clean up the scenes, bring all of those individual objects together into one master scene, and it's going to have all the objects. Doing this, because there's not really going to be any limits on number of faces, it's going to keep Maya running smooth, whereas if you did everything in one scene and started getting really high poly models, eventually, inevitably, Maya will start slowing down and potentially crash. So save early, save often, save in different scenes. Now, as far as scale is concerned, by default, Maya unit is 1 centimeter, which I believe is fairly common. In other programs, I feel like there's some reason why they chose centimeters. I'm sure the internet could tell us, but for now we're just going to accept that that's the reality. You can change units in Maya, but we're going to keep it with centimeters. It's just going to help when we get to rendering and lighting. It's going to help those feel a little bit more realistic, and it's going to help, like, if you're doing depth of field previously, if you wanted to get things in focus, you really had to do extreme numbers, and it was kind of weird. Modeling to scale will help with that. So that's where one of the reasons why we're going to do it. Also, it's just good practice, and it's going to help keep things kind of standard. And so as you're building your reference library and looking at things to model, you can keep that in mind and help maintain accuracy in your objects. So not everything is measured in centimeters, certainly not here in the United States, because we're stubborn and we really like the imperial system, even though it's terrible. So I would suggest either downloading onto your phones a unit converter, or I think the Windows calculator can do this automatically. I don't see an obvious way to do this in the Mac calculator. I know it can, but it's not... like, there's a convert tab, and you can convert length, but it doesn't convert length from feet to centimeters. You click convert, but I don't know what that just converted. I'm assuming it's whatever number you type in. So 10 feet, and then you go to convert length. But that's cumbersome. Yes, that is the accurate number, but that's way too many clicks for a simple conversion. So if you just use the Google and type in inches to centimeter, it just gives you this nice little widget. And so you can go inches or any other unit of distance that you prefer. Type in 10 and you get 304.8. So I think that's just easier. Again, I'm positive there are 15,000 different apps you could download. Choose your favorite one. You shouldn't have to spend any money on them. Or if you're really a glutton for punishment or just love math, you could do it all by hand. Your call. So bottom line is, have a way to convert things, because you're going to see, if you're looking at product reference, say on Amazon, and it says this chair is 37 inches tall, well, you need to find a way to convert that into centimeters. So choose a way that works best for you, but have it. Now, as far as doing that and translating that into Maya, let's start with just where you're probably going to start, which is a basic room. So I'm going to start with a cube, because most rooms are roughly boxy. If you are deciding to do a geodesic dome, have at it. But we're going to start with this box. And there's a couple things that I want to do. Certainly I want to have accurate size. I also want the cube to be on the ground. So I'm going to activate my move tool just so I have the widget. I want to move the pivot point to the bottom and then move the cube so that the bottom is on the ground. So I'm going to, I know we've done this before, but I'm going to do it again just to refresh your memory. I'm going to hold down the D key, or actually I'm going to turn on point snapping, hold down the D key, and snap it to a bottom vertex. Okay, so now the widget is at the bottom of the cube, which is great. Now I can turn off point snapping, and now I want to snap the cube to the grid floor. So there's two ways we can do this, and the obvious way is that turn on grid snapping and then just move it, and that works great. There's another way you can do it, and that is if you just hold down the X key, you can see the center turns from a square to a circle. That is, you can also look up here that it's turning grid snapping on and off. Okay, so this is a way to turn on snapping just for a moment for one particular transformation. And it does actually work if you're moving the pivot point too. So you can hold down D to move the pivot point, and then you can hold down X or C will snap to curve, or V will snap to points, move it around, and then let go of them, and snapping is off. Okay, so D to move the pivot point, V turns on snapping, X is grid snapping. So that's on the ground. Now we can worry about size. So we'll do the height first. So let's say we want to have a 10-foot ceiling. We just did that calculation, and 305 centimeters is 10 feet. So we're going to zoom way out, and there's 10 feet. And let's say we want to go 12 foot wide. So that translates into 366 roughly. Okay, and then the depth is going to be, let's go for a nice round 20 foot, and that's going to be 610. That's a big room. One last thing, well, a couple of things. One, I'm going to delete this face because I need to be able to see. And also, you'll notice that the normals are looking the wrong way. So I'm going to select those faces, all the faces, and just go to Mesh Display and reverse the normals. So now we are inside. Okay, so now we have a 10-foot tall by 12 by 20 room. Now let's say you've got a desk. You would go through that same process of adding the cube. You can hit F to frame up on the cube. Go into wireframe, hold down the D key, hold down V, snap to bottom point, and then hold down X and snap to the grid. Oops. Oh, that is, I don't know why that's staying on when I hold. Oops. Huh. The switching to pivot now is a toggle and it doesn't. Okay, I don't know. But now that that's in position, we can say, let's say the desk is 36 inches tall. That is 3 feet, which translates into 91 or so. So I'll scale it up to 91. And maybe you don't have a specific length, but at least you've got a relative scale. So we know, okay, it needs to be this tall. How wide do I want my desk? Well, now you can kind of play around and start figuring that out. Okay, because you don't need to necessarily model everything in this room off of existing products, but you should be within the realm of normal. So let's say maybe I put my desk there. Okay, and then let's say I want to put a window in this room. Well, I need to know, let's say on average windows are 4 feet off the ground. I don't know if that's accurate. Google, again, will tell you. But there's not really an easy way to, if I go to this cube, go to edge mode, go to my modeling toolkit, and multi-cut, hold down control. I can add an edge loop, but not really with a specific amount of precision. Okay, I don't know how high this is off the ground. So what you can do is you can add another cube, lots of cubes, Again, go through that same moving and snapping thing. Right, snap to the ground, and then snap to the grid floor. Go to your channel box and scale it up. So 4 feet is going to be 122. Okay, so this is like your benchmark. So I can move it up against the wall. I can go into side view, go into wireframe, zoom out a bit, and then go to inserting my edge loops. Oh, I need to be there. Okay, inserting my edge loops and line that up with the cube. And now I know, you can zoom in and get really close with it. Okay, now I know that the bottom of that window is going to be 4 feet off the ground. All right, so you can use additional objects just as kind of helpers for positioning. So what I would suggest is creating the general kind of layout of your room as far as the size of the room, if there's doors, windows, entryways, things of that nature, get those roughed out, and then start blocking out the main objects. And don't, if this is a desk, I don't need any more than just a cube, just to establish this is roughly where the desk goes, this is roughly where the chair goes. And you're not tied to these. You're not committing to this at this stage. This is just blocking in and kind of getting a sense of your scene and starting to understand the scope of what you have and what you're going to need to model. From there, then you can go and save this scene as a block or rough or room or whatever you want to call it. Then open up a new scene and then start modeling that desk and getting a little bit more specific with it. And next week I can go over specific objects and plans of attack for some more complicated things. But yeah, you're not tied to anything specific. Also, as you're going through this, think about ways that you can reuse objects, or at least kind of similar starting points. If you're doing books, make one book, and then how can you take that existing book and adjust it so you've got a different looking book, right? But you're not doing, modeling a second book from scratch. You've already got one that you made, or you're doing multiple size flower pots or vases or whatever it is. Think about ways that you can help speed up the process. Also, as you're going through this, think about the details that you're going to need to really help this feel like a full lived-in room. Again, don't want this to look like a something that's this plain and boring and like no person has ever been there. It should look like it's got some life and inhabitants. I don't want to see this. I want to see, like, put a rug, put maybe shoes or keys on a table or some steaming coffee or something. Make it feel like it's a real space that real people have been in.